Good evening, everyone. Really welcome. Good to have you here tonight for Family Matters again. Tonight we're going to be talking to Mark and Paula Buckler, and they're from the UK, and they're going to be talking about the marriage course. Now, Mark and Paula have been married for 51 years. They've run numerous marriage courses, both for married couples and for pre-married couples or married couples that are planning to get married. And it used to be a course that they'd run at an ecclesial hall or in a home, but lockdowns have changed all that. And the most recent courses they've run have been online. So tonight we're going to hear how they got introduced to the marriage course, what's in it, and how we can all benefit from it. So we're really looking forward to talking to you tonight. So welcome, Mark and Paula.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, it's great. Thought we'd take as a reading today from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and it's that reading that we often read at a wedding, so you'll very likely be familiar with it. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 8. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends.
So with that introduction, yeah, really love to have you here today, and yeah, appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. Well, let's begin by we'll just ask you, how did you meet and get married?
Right. We met. The families. We'd not known each other, but we'd known of each other and our families ever since, I suppose, either of us were born. Because we had an aunt of mine who was very close to Paula's family, but we came to meet at I'd moved from Cambridge up to Liverpool, and I was taken. I didn't drive then. I didn't have a car then. And I was taken to what we call a YPG, Young People's Group, at Blackburn by a couple in Liverpool meeting. And I saw this gorgeous girl there, and I thought, that's it.
Smitten.
So was that love at first sight?
I just want to say that I had a bit of a rebellious youth, but when I was baptized, I decided that I would really pray about finding a partner, and I think that is very, very important. And I feel that we were, God gave us each other, and
yes.
yeah, and that, I think if you've got that in your mind, you'll work at your marriage, won't you? Because you know that it's God guided.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point.
So tell us about.
And she was very patient, because I told her within a month of going out with her that I got to finish all my exams before I'd think of getting married, which was 3 years hence.
It was worth waiting for.
So was it love at first sight for you too, Paula?
Yes, I think it was really.
And is it still love at first sight? Yeah. Tell us about your early married years then too. Your pre-marriage course years.
We did in those days in the UK. Anything like pre-marriage was just totally unheard of. It was not something we'd ever heard of at that moment in time, and it was only 20 years later that we started hearing about marriage course and pre-marriage, talking to people before they got married about what marriage was going to be.
Which is sad.
So how was that?
We missed out on it, really.
Yeah.
we were introduced to the whole concept, if you like, of it by the late brother Harry Tennant and Bob Lloyd, who Harry married us, and he married about 6 other couples in the year, and we went to all those weddings. And a few years later, some of them started falling apart. And Harry said to us at one meeting we were at, he was conscious that he'd not put anything into the marriages. He'd just done the marriage, as it were, but not done anything to help that marriage to start off on the right footing. And so he decided that in the future he wouldn't do a marriage without he and Bernice talking to the couple who were getting married over some weeks about what marriage before God was involved.
Yeah, so that's where it all began.
Yep. Yeah. And they were our mentors in a sense, or they were our the people we looked up to in terms of what we were going to do about if I was asked to take a marriage, how would we deal with it?
Yes. Yeah. So how did you come about getting material for doing pre-marriage and marriage courses?
Initially, we did our own.
Okay.
But then we were introduced to the particular marriage course that we talked to you about tonight by some members of our ecclesia who said to us, will you come with us? We've heard about this marriage course, and it's being led by this couple in Leicester, not in a Christadelphian meeting room, but in a church in Leicester. Will you come with us? So we went to this course for a day. Very strange experience for us. 180 people, none of whom we knew. Used to Christadelphian meetings where we'd know at least half the people there. And we so enjoyed that day that we said with another couple in our meeting and the people who took us, we'll do this course on our own to see what it's like.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were very impressed, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and there, of course, were two, at that time, we were concentrating on the pre-marriage course, whereas now we've spent a lot more time on the post-marriage course.
Okay, so there's 2 different courses. What's the difference between one and the other?
Well, it's deals with it in the similar way, but there are some subjects that the pre-marriage course aren't appropriate to the post-marriage course, and likewise the post-marriage course isn't concerned about how your wedding's going to go, how you're going to deal with that, and so on. So they've got slightly different, they've got a different emphasis and slightly different content.
Yeah.
But it's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, the basis of it is the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you run these? Is it a whole day? Is it over a series of weeks, or what does that look like?
It's 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
We do it. Yeah.
Okay.
It might not do it. We might not do it every week, but it is 6 different. Well, I think there's now 6 different modules. So it takes about 2 hours, roughly 2 hours.
Yeah. And
to go through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we sort of help people to make sure that they were really relaxed. And when they used to come to the meeting, we had the lights down and music going, and made them. We said this is your date night, and make it so that it was a really nice night for them. We did nibbles and drinks and and I think this is what Nikki and Scylla, who do the marriage course we're talking about, said it was very important to get that atmosphere so that people could express to their partners and be really honest in looking at difficult questions, really.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea, and I love that idea of making that into your date night as well. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
The whole course, and Paula just mentioned being honest, that the very basis of the course depends upon a couple being honest with each other. If they if they're not honest with each other, then they will be shown up in the, I think, in the course, to be shown that they've not been honest with each other, and that can cause all sorts of other problems.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
what's
difficult. Sorry.
No, carry on.
I was just going to say it's difficult really to be honest, because I mean you never normally sort of sit down and say, let's talk about our marriage. I mean, that you don't do it, do you? So it makes you really look at it and you know, express your feelings and where you feel that the marriage is not as maybe as it gets a bit boring, and you know, it just helps you in that way.
Yeah, I suppose too, you know, one of the things about being honest is that you also end up sort of A, showing a vulnerable part of yourself, and B, you don't want to hurt, well, your wife. You don't want to go, well, actually, I'm finding our date night's really boring, and it's because we always talk about
Yeah.
but you know, you don't want to sort of hurt someone at the same time, but you do need to build on your marriage.
Yeah.
And doing the marriage course, I think, is a great way of doing that, because you know that you're going to be very intentional about talking about certain subjects.
Yeah.
So that opens the way without it being something that's
Well, it's particularly confrontational.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I think it's worth saying, Rob, that at the outset, that this is not a course that will particularly, it isn't a course for people whose marriages are in difficulties. We always talk to people and say, this is a course that helps strong marriages become stronger. It's about giving us the tools to make our marriages better. But if you've got basic problems with your marriage, this isn't a marriage counseling course in that way. And I think people need to understand that's not what it's about. It is about making good marriages better, or stronger marriages. You know, that's the essence of what the course is about.
Yes.
And if people have real problems, they need to go to you know, proper counselling, because we can't do that.
No.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So it's about prevention rather than cure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's about getting better and better, and how do you improve it, and what are the tools that you can have to make it a better marriage, a better relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And so do you present just on your own, or do you have another couple that you present with?
Well, it's the presentation we use. I mean, there's a manual, a guest manual that everybody has, because if we just say how the course actually works, it's on. Originally, when we started, it was on a DVD with this workbook, but now you can get it on YouTube. I think. Well, we did last time. We used it. We got it on YouTube, and each sort of the process it works is that it's presented on the DVD by this Nikki and Scylla. And if you say it's a 2-hour session on different subjects, about an hour of that will be them talking or showing little clips of other people's comments upon the particular subject that's been dealt with. But roughly half of it will then be for the couple to do worksheets in this guest manual. And some of the little breaks will be 5 minutes, but there's always a major break in the 2 hours of maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes, which will deal with the main topic of that night. So we would introduce it, we would start it off, and we'd end up, and it depends how many you've got, whether it's a 1-to-1 or whether it's more than that. We would then end up with a discussion afterwards, picking up the points that people felt they needed either enlarging or they were struggling with. So we didn't personally do any. We did, if it's the pre-marriage course, we do more intervention. But if it's the marriage course, then we tend to do it with the people who are doing it, because we always find it helps us in our marriage every time we do it.
Mm. So you actually
It's
do
amazing
it.
how you forget. Sorry. Rob.
Yeah, you do it with everyone else. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if people, and then sometimes we will, at the end of it, if there's a few on, we would perhaps try and get discussion going by saying how that particular module had got an element in it that particularly helped us, or we struggled with and were difficult with, and how it helped us to talk through that issue.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a moment. What just briefly, what sort of areas do they cover in the course?
Paula will start off on this. Come on, Paula. It wants what does it cover? So the first session talks with building strong foundations. And what's your essence of that one, Paula?
Oh yes, the main thing about building strong foundations is marriage time. And that is a real commitment every week if you have a date time, because it's just lovely to be able to sort of talk and express and be honest with each other, as we've been taught in the course. So I think that's the main thing about that, and it's how well you know each other. And you might think when you're married you know each other, but my word, it's not always true. And also studying each other's needs.
And the way that it deals with these, and this is common to all the modules, it will get you sometimes to write down, how would you respond to the situation? How do you feel your wife would deal with that situation? And you independently, you do your answers to it, and then you compare those answers to see actually how well do I know how my wife would react to that, or my husband react to that. So that then causes the discussion between you. Oh, I didn't know that was, why do you react in that way? And every module uses that sort of technique to look at the issues and see how well do you know each other, how can you then help each other through that situation. So the second one.
Just a moment before you go on to the second one. So when you do that, having been married for 51 years, do you still find things that you don't know, that you didn't realize about each other?
Yes.
But you see, but life changes, doesn't it? And your situation changes. So there are, you've got to deal with different issues. Paula's had virtually sort of the last 12 months since lockdown and slightly before lockdown. Paula was very poorly before lockdown came, and we've never had really periods of real poorliness, sickness in our illness in our marriage. And the last 12 months have taught us we've had to deal differently with situation the last 12 months than we did before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it does change, and the children leave home and you suddenly find just the two of you again, and that changes how you. So the second module then is what it calls the art of communication, and it's how well do you talk, how well do you communicate in your marriage, and it gives you hints as to how you can become a better listener. Yep. And how do you listen, and how do you talk? So that's the second one. Third one, and Paul will tell about the third one.
Well, yes, the one that we particularly like, if you like, is what was it called?
Love in Action.
Love in Action, yes, which is really, if anybody's read, and I'm sure people have, the 5 languages of love, that's what it's dealing with. And so I'll just run through them. The first one is loving words. The second one is thoughtful presence. the third one is physical affection, and the fourth one is quality time. So when we think of us two, my love language is kind actions. So I'll just give you a demonstration of how it worked between us. I thought, oh, you know, loving actions. Mark would really like it if I maybe tidied his study, because it's always in a little bit of a mess. And Mark knows where everything is in it, but I'm not allowed to touch it. And so he's got like papers all over the floor with piles, which he knows what's there and what's there. And so I thought, right, I'm going to tidy all this up. So I did. And when he came home, and I said, have a look in your study. And he's talk about a frown on his face. He really, obviously, it wasn't his love language at all. So, so I learned then that my love language is that, and you maybe think your partners would be the same, but they're not. So Mark's love language is quality time. So that means that, you know, he likes time to talk together and have time with each other. And I can remember him saying once, you know, shall we go walk together? And I looked outside and it was windy, rainy, and looked awfully grey. And I thought, I don't want to go a walk in this. And so I obviously, you know, showed that I wasn't that keen. So we've now had to really realise that our love languages are different. And so really we try to put those into practice and realise that quality time to Mark is the primary thing. So I've got to go along with that. And actually a funny little
Don't keep on.
No, shall I put that there?
You better hear this funny little anecdote anyway.
I'll leave it at that.
It wasn't that I was going to be embarrassed by what she said. It was just I felt if she went, we're conscious of time.
Yes.
But other issues, just I'll quickly go through them. So one night is on how do you resolve conflict? How do you deal with issues where you're a bit fighty with each other? The next one is the power of forgiveness, because sometimes, you know, forgiving, in a marriage, you just need to be able to forgive, don't you, and so on. The impact of family, past and present. So that's all about, do you recognize the baggage you're bringing with you to your marriage, or you brought to the marriage, and how are you dealing with that? I call it the outlaws and in-laws section, that one. Yep. Paula will not talk about the next one, but the next one is good sex.
We'll pass on that.
So those are the six. Actually, those are the 6 modules that there are, and they all deal with. In the structure, in a sense, is similar to them all. It varies in terms of time length of the workshops and so on, but they all work on that same thing. And to me, the amazing thing is, and it is to Paula too, is we find we talk about things easily that we would not normally talk about at all. It somehow makes you talk about issues that you're reluctant to talk about.
Yes.
Very, very clever psychology in the sense, the way they do that.
It is the psychology, yeah.
And it's in this, it's in the fact that you have to answer, how would your partner deal with that? So you have to think about that, and then you find you've got it wrong. So you talk about how you resolve it. And what we haven't said, Robert, the big issue is, it is totally private between the couple. Unless the couple
you're not sharing this in a big group. You're
Sorry.
not sharing this in a big group.
No.
No.
And there is that big emphasis on, this is between the two of you. It isn't between, and that's where, when we come onto the Zoom, that's where Zoom was such a big bonus.
Yeah, because you're not in a room together with 4 other couples. You're at home alone in private. Yeah.
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 So tell us about how you do it on Zoom.
Well, on Zoom, we've got a brother who's very techo in our meeting, and who's already done the marriage course at least once, if not twice before. And he's only in his early 30s. And we talked to him about whether because of lockdown, we've got Sunday evenings. What do you do on a Sunday evening? You can't go anywhere, do anything. And I don't know, we came up with the idea of doing the marriage course. And we discovered you could actually get it on YouTube. So we said to people, would you like to do this marriage course on Zoom? It'll be totally private, but we can all be on the screen together at the beginning, and when we want to be, we can all be on the screen together. But you will be at home. So if you've got you don't have to have babysitters. We'll do it at 8 o'clock, or I think it was 8 o'clock. We did it on Sunday night. So you've got your kids to bed. You don't have to come out. And he managed it technology-wise. He'd switch it on the television screen or the computer. And then when it came to one of the breakout rooms, well, which would be a breakout room normally, he just shut everybody off.
Okay.
So everybody was at home. And then after 5 minutes, if it was a 5-minute break or if it was 20 minutes, he'd pull everybody back into the main room, and we'd carry on with the presentation that Nikki and Scylla were doing.
Okay.
So we had all sorts of ages, from 70-year-olds down to 25-year-olds were on, from all sorts of places in the country. It wasn't just our own meeting. And interestingly, over half of them had already done in the past. They'd done the marriage course.
Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
some of them had done the pre-marriage course as well. So that to us was a good recommendation that people had done it and came back to do it again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite impressive, really.
And then at the end of the presentation, we'd all come back on screen, and we'd then have half an hour probably of fellowship and raising issues that people, what did you find good? Were there issues? And Paula and I would usually try and start the discussion by actually saying what in that night had affected us and what we'd found helpful and useful.
Right. So each time you've done it yourselves, have you found that different issues stand out more prominently than others, or do you find that you sort of come up against the same things time and again?
No, I think we've always found there's something, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think in was it The Art of Communication, where you have to identify your feelings on things, and actually a lot of us hide our feelings really and can't express them, and so they give you a lot of questions. How would you deal with this, and
how do you feel in that situation?
Yeah, how do you feel in different situations? And that was really helpful to us, wasn't it?
And sometimes you've had a situation in life in recent times that then you've had to face that issue, and you find that it helps you to say, how did we deal with that issue? Did we deal it well? Because we perhaps not had it before. Like in our cases, with Paula being ill and being ill for some weeks and months, again, that was a new situation for us to have to deal with. Was I going to be patient and kind, or was I going to be, how was I going to deal with it, that life suddenly had become so restricted?
Yes.
Yeah.
They also talk about prayer quite a bit. and
Oh,
how
good.
that actually, you know, will help your marriage if you pray together. I remember once them saying that every morning, when you wake up, say, what can I pray for you today? And I thought that was lovely, really, that we both could do that. You know, it is quite a Christian.
Oh, it is a Christian.
A real Christian website.
The basis of it is very Bible-based, but not heavily Bible-based, and that might sound awful, but it is a course that is trying to give you practical tools within the Christian ethos and way of behavior to build your marriage up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think has been the most helpful section in the marriage course? And why do you think that? You know, if you were going to say, well, let's just do that section because that's the one that's impacted most people, which one would you choose?
I think actually the second one, which is the art of communication. And I think a lot of marriage courses talk about that as well, don't they?
Mm.
Communication.
Yeah. It's a big issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've got your communication right, a lot of the other issues are much easier to deal with if you're able to talk freely with each other, and you can then deal with them if you bring them into the open. And one of the examples they give is if you've got an issue, don't put it between you, the issue.
Oh, yeah.
But as it were, think of it, it's put in the middle of you, on the floor in front of you as you're sitting on the settee, and it's your issue. It isn't a blockage. You've removed the blockage there. You've put it, exposed it in front of the two of you so you can deal with it together.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really neat way of thinking about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also with the next one, which is resolving conflict, it talks about some people are called rhinos because they that's the way that they deal with, you know, they go all for it, and others are hedgehogs, which they sort of hold back. And we are both opposites in that.
I'm a rhino, she's a hedgehog.
I want to bury it. I don't want to bring it out into the open, whatever we're talking about. I want to just hide it because I can't bear sort of arguments. And but Mark is more.
No, this is being careful now. But again, it isn't that you necessarily change your character. You try to change your character, but once you actually recognize something in your life, how you are, what you are, it's easier to deal with. You're conscious of it. So if you find I'm suddenly being a rhino, because I know that by nature that's probably what I am, then you're able to control it. It's when you don't recognize an issue that you can't control it.
Yeah.
But it makes you realize what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, and they're much easier to deal with when they've been brought into the open.
Yeah.
Yes, I can remember when we were first married. Sorry, Rob.
No, carry on. I just said you can actually do something about them when you've recognized what they are. So sorry, carry on.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, when we were first married, I would say that Mark had a very short fuse, if you know what that means. Mm-hmm. You know,
she would say I had a temper. That doesn't.
But you know, I'm not kidding. I would never say that now because he hasn't got one. And over the years, he's been able to control it, and I hardly ever feel that now he gets angry, except sometimes you can tell in his eyes if he is, and I just say eyes, and he knows what I mean.
Okay, I'll go backwards.
Those code words, eh? Yeah. Yeah. So have you had any wow moments, like, you know, people who've done the course with you, and you sort of
Yeah,
you
we
have that
have.
wow moment where someone's
Yes,
gone, oh wow, this has just changed my marriage completely?
Yes, we have.
Well, you know, people say this is an interesting one couple who in fact was our Techo man. 3 years ago, conflict resolution was the challenging section for us. So they'd done it 3 years before. But this time we found that section a breeze. This time we found the love languages section particularly beneficial, because we discovered that both of ours had changed.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So they'd moved on. So another one is somebody said we found modules 2 and 3 to the most useful, as good communication seems to help resolve so many problems. We particularly found it helpful to think about past events and positive, memorable experiences. Another one said, if I can find another one. Again, so this just illustrates where something might not be relevant. Somebody said the in-laws and outlaws section, the impact of family was not particularly relevant for our situation. Communications, for us personally, this was very beneficial and gave us a platform whereby we could discuss topics which we would probably otherwise shelve and possibly not get round to discussing. We would recommend it, as we were told, to make good marriages stronger. And one of the highlights of the Zoom one for one couple was that because of COVID, husband and wife had to separate because they got a daughter who was particularly susceptible, vulnerable, and so she couldn't live with her brothers. And so they were living in 2 houses, but they were able to come onto Zoom and do the marriage course together. And when it came to going into the workshop sections, they were put into their own breakout room, just the 2 of them.
Oh,
Right.
brilliant. So even though
So they look
apart,
forward to Sunday night.
do it
So
together.
they could do it together, but they were separate. If
Yeah.
that's not a contradiction.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that was just a particular example. So yeah, the comments of people have been very positive, and a recognition that it's different people facing. I mean, you could take it depends upon ages as well, doesn't it? Because I always think of when talking about a pre-marriage example. If you've got people in their late 20s getting married, they will have had years of establishing their own lifestyle as a single. And I remember one particular couple we talked to, and we got on to talking about money was an issue what dealt with in one of the modules, and recognizing that you know, it's no longer my money, it's our money, if you like, and how do you deal with that? And quite clearly, this couple had not thought about the fact that they might have to pool their resources and their money. One of them had got a hobby that needed a lot of money. The other, his potential wife, liked going into dress shops or clothes shops. And they said to them, look, can you now spend £1,000 on that lens for your camera, or can you spend £500 on a dress? Have you sorted out how you're going to deal with their finances? And they'd never thought about it. They'd not worked out that. And another big emphasis with pre-marriage that we always go through is don't ever go into a marriage thinking you're going to change somebody. Because we did have, I think, one couple where quite clearly one of them wanted children and the other one didn't. Don't think you're going to change them in that situation when you get married. If you go into a marriage thinking you're going to change the other, it ain't going to work.
Yeah, very wise advice.
So it's those sort of issues that we found crop up.
Yeah. What would you say to the couple or the couples who here there's a marriage course on, you're running a marriage course, or someone else is running a marriage course, and they go, well, actually, I have no problems in my marriage, so I won't come. Or the other couple who go, oh, we've, you know, our marriage is struggling and we don't want anyone to know, so we won't come. Or the other couple who go, if we go to that, then it looks like we've got problems in our marriage, so we won't go. What do you say to those people?
Yeah.
3 questions in one there, Robert.
It is.
I think we would say, the quote people, we would say, well, we've known people who've had that view, and that we don't need it because our marriage is strong. And we had a couple in our meeting who felt that, until the husband was asked to take a marriage, and he said, oh, I've got to do the marriage course now because I don't think I can marry them without doing the marriage course. And having done it, they've repeated doing it again.
Yeah, that completely changed, didn't they?
So having done it, they realized, and we had a very good friends of ours, and we kept saying to them, come on, we're doing the marriage course. No, we don't need. And when it was lockdown, I don't know whether it's because they felt in lockdown it was something to do on a Sunday night, they actually came. But they acknowledged that there were things that the marriage course taught them that they weren't aware of. So they found it helpful. And I think the third one is, okay, I know some people have concerns about people thinking about it, but that's why I think it's important to say, this isn't about marriages that got trouble. This is about helping marriages to grow. Strong marriages get better. And if you sell it on that, well, sell it's the wrong word perhaps, but if you talk to people, that's what it's about. It isn't about, so don't think, we've done it. If we talked how many times we've done it, 10 times? I don't know, maybe that number. And we don't feel we've got a weak marriage, but we find some benefit from it from every time. And it is private. It is just the two of you. Nobody needs to know what you've talked about, how you've reacted to it. It is totally private. And that's a very, very important thing for people to feel. They don't want to feel they're exposing themselves to other people.
Yeah. So if someone wants to do this, if someone's like sitting there here now going, you know, oh, this sounds really good. This sounds like, you know, we'd love to improve our marriage, or, you know, or sort out this area in our lives because we don't talk much, or I think she needs to forgive me, or something like that. Where can they go to find a marriage course? Are you running any more, or?
Well, we would be happy to run one, but people can, if they've got somebody local who's prepared to effectively be the facilitator, because you don't, the person who's the facilitator, the organizer, doesn't of themselves have to do any work on it. It is very easy to do in that sense. We don't have to do a lot of in preparation or work before it, because it's there done for us. It's being, people having a confidence in the person leading it, I suppose, to just know that they wouldn't lead you into something that was not good, if you like. Yeah. But I mean, if people wanted to know, we could point people in the right direction, or we could send you details to point people in the right direction. Or if people said, would you do it? You know, if we could find the time scale to do it, we'd be happy to be facilitators.
Cool.
And you all have your own, what do they call it?
Yeah, everybody has to have a guest manual.
A guest manual, yeah. With all the exercises and every week there's homework to do for the next week. It doesn't have to do for the relative, but there is a couple of pages of exercises for you to do in the following, to follow up, to talk about it. So they actually suggest some questions. So if you have your date night in the next week, some questions as a starter for 10 to ask each other that have a relevance to the week before.
Cool. Okay, well, if you're running anything, let me know, and I will pass that information on. And if anyone wants to know, you know, what's coming up, or know when I send some information, or when there's some information available, just drop me an email at robert@thinkythings.com, and I will let you know if anything comes up.
Well, we'll let you've got our email anyway, so
Yes.
you can email us.
Yeah.
We've got Paula's email, not mine. I'll send you mine as well.
Yeah, I'll pass that on if anyone comes to me. So, yeah.
I've got a little conclusion.
She's thinking
Sure.
she's come to a conclusion.
the marriage.
That's communication for you. Yeah. You've obviously done the course.
So this is part of the course. One, the marriage isn't static. It's designed to be a dynamic relationship that keeps changing. Number two, it's a mistake to think we sort our marriage out and that's it. Three, marriage is a journey. Four, expressing our commitment to each other is essential to the success of the journey. 5, commitment is liberating, as it means we can take a long view, we can plan our future together, and we can look beyond current frustrations. 6, when we're both committed, there's nothing we can't work through together. And 7, we believe God has called each of us to a partnership with our husband or wife that he wants to use.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite nice.
That's a really beautiful way to finish.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you both.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
The time that you put into helping strengthen marriages.
Yeah.
The interest that you have in helping other people, and really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So have we.